Welcome back from the South African Investment Conference that's taking place today. A very, very big day for the president. This is, of course, his initiative, and he called for this in 2018. And his goal, 1.3 trillion rand on investments, is what he's hoping to achieve in 5 years. And companies heard the call, and they are here. Well, these are South African companies, of course, that are here showcasing what they have to offer. And all of this in the hope of attracting investment and business deals into the country. I mean, I'm just trying to give you a glimpse of some of the companies that are here. And of course, Anglo American, a massive stall here. You can see just in the corner over there, that's Vodacom. We've also got different companies. There's MTN as well. Welcome to proudly South Africa. Invest SA One Shop. And then of course, this Calabash is here. And this is from the government communications, where there are loads of television cameras that are already set up there. I imagine that there's going to be some interviews that are done there with the president and other high-profile individuals, and they will all take place there. But the point is to attract investment into a country. And to attract investment into a country that is going through a lot is a very, very difficult aim or goal, I suppose. I mean, the power system, it's giving us problems. We can barely have lights switched on in this country. The other issue is the road infrastructure, the rail networks, deindustrialization. We heard from the finance minister the devastating effects that deindustrialization are having on South Africa, and many other issues that we are grappling with. But possibly the biggest is an unemployment rate sitting at around about 46%. Not a very attractive destination if you ask me, but then again, I'm not the person that needs to sell South Africa. I do that every day of my life because I plan on staying here. But somebody whose job it is to sell this country to investors is here with me, and we're going to talk to him and find out what it is that the investors are looking for. Xolani Xala is from SA Business Abroad. We're with him now just to chat a little bit about that. So nice to see you.
Good morning.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been highlighting some of the major issues that we as a country are going through. Whether we are talking about the lack of electricity, whether we are talking about the rail infrastructure that's falling apart, the roads that are unfortunately in a terrible situation, and then we take our mind back to the devastation of businesses in July last year during the riots. What do business think of us? Do they still want to invest in this country?
Well, Leanne, you are very critical issues, which I think affect many South Africans, be in South Africa, be abroad. But let's also give credit when it's due. I think we must undertake the understanding that South Africa has been backwards internationally. Investors has not been coming in South Africa as much as we want. But we must also accept that this conference have brought that investment to South Africa is the best place to invest into. We must look at 4 years ago when the president started to create this platform. Numbers of people came in, and then COVID came in also. But through COVID, the president was still even able to host such event. And I think, should they have given a space to not host this investment conference during COVID time, many investors, you know that investors, once you cough, they run away. So the president staying in and holding on, bringing plus 100 investors internationally to host the conference, made investors internationally to realize South Africa, it is the getaway to invest in Africa. I must also indicate and highlight to you very strongly, investors like to make sure that the guarantee for their return, and one of them is making sure that there's efficient electricity. With Eskom, we have indicated this to the president, they must undertake a robust engagement, making sure that Eskom provides electricity at the required time. Because once the business switch off in terms of electricity, we have a difficult job to sell South Africa. But they are doing very well. I think there's a lot needs to be done, but we must give a little bit of time. I think there's a correction to be done there, and the president is doing very well in that sense.
Well, I mean, yes and no, because It doesn't, I mean, and this is something I said to the minister, is that yes, we can speak on high-level conversations about the things that are being discussed in boardrooms and behind the scenes and the investments and all of these kind of things, but it's not translating into economic growth. It's not translating into jobs. It's not translating into people being able to put meals on a table. And this is the problem. You know, when you see a state that is unfortunately in the position that we're in, many are calling it a failed state or a failing state. Is that a fair assessment?
I don't think so. I think the other thing, there's domestic politics and then there's international investment, which those two things, I think time to time we must be able to separate them. Myself as a South African, I understand what are the root challenges of South Africans domestically, as nationally in the country. Then I understand what is the view of the country international and what is the perception of international investors about South Africa. There is a change, Leanne. Let me give you an example. Perhaps let me be bold here and say I know companies that we have brought them into South Africa. They have employed 96% of South Africans. So no one can come to me and say this is just a talk show. These conferences have brought business for South Africans from investors who are coming from international, some in Africa, some from Europe. So they are coming and opening their businesses in South Africa and employ South Africans in South Africa. Then you will have the domestic and national challenges, which I think South Africans here in South Africa are dealing with that also. But there are some challenges. In these challenges, I think we must give a little bit of time. We're coming out of COVID a little bit. President just yesterday have given some reduce in terms of measures with COVID-19, and that will allow other people to create jobs and open up the space in the market, and others also be able to apply for job opportunities.
Yeah, which is important. And at the end of the day, I mean, you know, the minister was saying that it's the investment first and the jobs will follow. Investment first, the jobs will follow. So, yes, the message is to South Africans to be more patient and that it will come. I understand.
They have to be creative. They have to be creative. Have to be creative.
And that's what that's where I want to go with this. Is that must we constantly depend on Toyota coming in here and assembling a vehicle? We do it. We use our manpower. Then we send it away, and then we buy it back at a much more expensive price. And this is something that I was talking to the minister about. Where are we in all of this? In creating our own products, in becoming a localized nation, and not depending so much on the outside world, and then getting poorer for it by having to buy it back. Where do we fit into localization? It's a big conversation. Let's talk about that.
Well, look, I think there is a platform that is yet to be created much bolder, which is products that are made in South Africa by South Africans and be sold internationally. I can tell you many of them. I think the marketing side of this product has not been great, and these products are stuck in South Africa, and some of them slowly now are going outside of the Republic of South Africa. And I think we must not neglect the challenges that COVID have brought into the midst of all of these things. Some of the products were going out. For instance, there is a group of African ladies who are making wines. These wines were about to be selling up in the very big retailers in the UK, in Sainsbury, Marks and Spencer. But they have to come in back to South Africa because the marketing was not proper. We have young people who are doing shoes. These shoes are beginning to take market in Africa as well as internationally. But Leanne, we all know without proper investment and proper marketing, these things will remain in South Africa. We ought to say to our people, let's be flexible and be tactical at the same time. If you are a doctor, you qualify to be a doctor, there's nothing there for you. Try to look for something else somewhere else.
Yeah, and this is what I'm happy to see, that there are some smaller businesses, not just our big guys. We need our big guys here, but the smaller businesses are also here and present, showcasing what they have to offer and hopefully getting themselves some exposure internationally and some investment. I want to quiz you on something you said a bit earlier, is that these companies, international companies coming, setting up shop here and then hiring locals. I just at the corner of my eye spotted one of the big manufacturers, Huawei. They're here, they're investing their advertising just inside the GCIS there. They obviously have a presence somewhere, I haven't seen it. They were just recently found guilty of hiring a workforce of 90% non-South Africans in an operation that is here in South Africa. They obviously have been fined a very measly amount of money and then have pledged to, within a couple of years, make it 50% hiring of South Africans to work in their operations. But they've gotten away with it. They've gotten away with working in South Africa and hiring 90% foreign nationals. This is not right.
Absolutely, I agree with you. It's not something that's supposed to be allowed. But I must also highlight two things to you, Leanne, that I think most of the people do not understand. They think by us bringing international companies to invest in South Africa, then we have to follow behind these companies and see what they do in South Africa. No, that's not our case. You have to remember that South Africa is one of the leading countries in terms of regulations. You can't just bring a finance company like a bank to South Africa and operate the next day. No, you have to walk through regulation, and they're very tough regulations, Leanne. Some of them we have requested this regulation to be flexible enough so that investors can be attracted enough to invest large sums of money. But we also ask, once these companies are in the Republic of South Africa, regulators who are working with government have to follow up. They have to follow up. These are national issues that people on the ground level, local governments, are the ones who have to follow these things up.
My final question to you is, and I know I'm being a bit harsh on you, because we need these questions answered, because you're dealing with the international businesses and we want the investment, but we're also faced with that daily reality of the things that I've been talking to you about. Corruption. We cannot ignore corruption because there are a handful of people that appear to be in this for themselves. We hope we're coming out of a time of state capture. We've seen how much South Africa lost to state capture and to the corruption. There is still corruption everywhere we look in the country. Surely this is another deterrent to investment into South Africa, or isn't it? Or do business come here and know, well, you come here and it's a free-for-all?
You know, Leanne, I say this to many South Africans. We have to be proud about this country. At one stage or another, we have to just be proud of South Africa. You know where I come from in United Kingdom? You will hardly hear the word corruption. Hardly. In Parliament, no one talks about corruption. When it's affecting the United Kingdom people, we talk about scandals. Then I come to my country in South Africa, and then I hear corruption. I go down and look what they have done. These are scandals. So let's look at them as scandals and deal with them as scandals, okay? The Zondo Commission have done so much. There's a lot I wanted them to do. The report, the president have seen, some of us who have seen the report, see it online, but I think the president have taken a step in dealing with corruption in South Africa. We have seen the Minister of Justice, Ramaphosa, was meeting with business people and saying, you know what, you people are some of the people who are allowing corruption to take place in this country. It's business people who are allowing unauthorized things that are not supposed to happen, and in that way you are creating corruption. We ought to take a stand as a nation. It doesn't take only one person, for instance, the president or the ministers. We as ordinary South Africans, you don't have to be in the business platform to point out there's a corruption operation that is taking place in my community. Report these things. The law enforcement must do their job so that the justice system will be able to persecute those who are doing wrong things. I'm against corruption. Anyone found guilty must serve their time in prison, I think. In that way, South Africa will always be seen as a gateway to Africa. We're doing very well at the moment, but I think there's much need to be done.
Indeed. Xolani, thank you. Thanks for talking to us. Thanks so much. I do differ with you on the scandal issue, though. It needs to be called for what it is. I ain't calling something a scandal when it is blatant corruption. And I'm grateful that as South Africans, we are able to call things out. But what I'm not grateful for is not acting on it, and that's the reality, because there is this country, we will fight for this country, and we know that. And it's people like you that are out there selling the destination, but things need to be done the right way.
I agree with you. The other thing, Leanne, we may have all these reports coming up, corruption there and corruption there. For me, until somebody is behind the bars.
Absolutely.
Then I will say we're doing a great job.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for chatting to us. Enjoy it, and keep bringing us investments and money. All right, there we go. Give him a little bit of hard time there, but it's okay. This is what we're here for. I know that it was meant to start at 8:30. Have we started? Not yet. It's going to start shortly. I'm just buying a little bit of time for you. We're going to take a quick break, and then hopefully when we come back, we'll see the opening of the South African Investment Conference. It's taking place the whole day. We're hoping to hear from the President before 9 o'clock. If not, might be a little bit late, but we certainly will be bringing all of that to you live. We'll see you after this. Stay tuned.